have a question for the private sector employees. What are you going to do when all these highly qualified government employees lose their jobs and now they come into the private sector and take your job? Fuck DEI and the initiatives that employers have when now you have to compete not only with regular people, but highly employed government employees. Because it's going to happen. These people now lose their federal jobs. They're coming into the private sector looking for jobs. So now your work search gets even more complicated because now you are competing with highly skilled professionals who otherwise was sitting working for the government, and now they're coming for your job. Good luck with your work search. Kudos.
Hello everyone, this is Emmanuel Cook. We will be reacting to a new video today, so make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's get into the video.
Child, they done snatched my edges with that last email, baby. I'm gonna tell you, I ain't got but 2 strands left. I had my little meltdown myself earlier, okay? It's okay to be pissed off. It's okay to be scared. It is okay. It is okay. Don't think that I do not sympathize, because I do. I'm right there hard in the paint with y'all. We're in this together, and I'm saying we're gonna be okay. You see what I'm doing? My heart is beating like crazy, but guess what? I have to breathe. I have to take care of here, and I have to take care of here, because if I don't, I'm good to no one dead. And that's on who? All right, now we are going to wait for further guidance come Monday. Until then, we are going to enjoy the rest of our weekend. It's going to be like that annoying fly that comes in your ear, that email on a hot day. Just swat that sucker and keep it pushing. Do not allow somebody else, the power to screw up your mental health. Do not give somebody else the power to disrupt your peace. Make sure you breathe. I don't know if you're a praying person, but I am, and I'm praying for all of us as a whole, as a family. We are going to make it through this. I know that even more people have lost their jobs over this weekend. I'm so sorry. Y'all are still our family. It is not right. I am pissed off. I am hurt because I know what I had to do to get my job. I had to work my behind off. So, to lose your job after all of that, through no fault of your own, it's wrong on so many levels. I am good to no one dead. I refuse to allow somebody else the power to kill me in this way, okay? Over my anxiety, my mental health. They want me to act on my emotions, and I just refuse, baby. I'm going to have me a scoop of ice cream, and I'm going to watch Little House on the Prairie because that is good TV. People that know. Watch cartoons if you have to. Whatever gets your mind off of this nonsense. We'll worry about it on Monday, okay?
Let's discuss how these mass federal terminations and layoffs are going to affect the job market and what that's going to mean for job seekers. So for one, you are going to have an increased number of applicants entering in private and nonprofit sectors from federal service, and it's going to make the job market extremely competitive. Now, if you are entry level or if you are, mid-level or even executive level, this is going to impact everyone because now you have all of these senior executives and highly skilled federal employees with lots of degrees, lots of experience entering the market. I don't think people understand how rigorous federal hiring is, and most federal jobs require some form of degree. Not all of them, but most of them do. So now you have these people who are displaced out of federal service going back into private sector. Organizations and companies are going to start increasing the qualifications for applicants. And recruiters are going to start looking for more than just maybe a certificate or certification in certain career fields that once was skating by. That's not going to be the case anymore. So the next impact that you're going to see is with salary negotiations. And what I mean by that is everybody knows public sector, you make far less than you do in private sector. So I'm a GS-12. I make $90,000 a year, which is good money. But I know for the amount of money that I handle and control with M's and B's, I could be making 150, close to 2. Now, if I go into private sector and I ask for $120,000, that's good money. That's a $30,000 pay increase. Whereas you would have probably been asking for that 150 or 175 salary. The company's winning by picking me because I'm like 150 and save them $25,000. So you see how that is going to impact, because federal workers are already making less money. So any type of pay increase is going to benefit them. And then for like consulting and those companies that have contracts with federal government, now that federal employees will be getting out of public service or public sector, they can go and work with these consulting firms because they know the ins and outs. And who do you think they're going to be more willing to hire? Somebody who already has the knowledge or somebody who they have to teach the knowledge. So we're gonna see a increased impact in competitiveness across the market. And I would love for somebody maybe to do an economic study or data analysis in like the next 6 months to see what hiring is looking like now that you have an influx of public sector workers moving into the private sector.
I just watched a video a couple of moments ago of a guy who reports the news, and he was talking about the federal employees and how they're getting laid off left and right. Just, a hostile takeover was the phrase that he used, which is probably the correct term at this point. And the comments under that video were so sickening. You had people actually celebrating that federal workers are losing their jobs. You had people literally saying things like, oh, good riddance. Oh, now I know my tax dollars are being utilized effectively. Do you? It's good because they've made millions of dollars at the taxpayer's expense. And it really got me thinking about the lack of ability to use deductive reasoning for adults. There are too many adults on this app with one brain cell. Literally using one brain cell. And all they could say was, oh, we're glad that federal workers are being let go because our tax dollars are really going to be used for good this time. Well, I got news for you. If you think that, clearly, either you're thinking way too hard or you're not thinking enough. Federal workers, if they're laid off, no, they're not just going to sit at home and collect unemployment. That might be the first 1 or 2 days. But rest assured, federal workers are going to start going into these private sectors, these private corporations and companies and businesses, etc. That's where they're going to be applying for jobs next. And if you thought it was hard for you to either keep your job, get a raise, or get a new job, it has become 3 times harder now. That all of those federal employees, and still counting because Muskrat is still going through and doing more layoffs, okay? So, at this point, you had to fight to get another job, and the most you had to worry about is going up against a few thousand people. Now, triple that, quadruple that. Because if you think federal employees are not going to be searching for employment in the private sectors, you are a fool. And I'm just going to say, even if they don't apply for jobs in the private sector, laying off individuals from certain federal government entities is dangerous in itself. I did a video the other day about the layoffs at the CDC and the NIH and how detrimental that is to public health. I know for a fact that laying off those 15,000 proposed employees, whether they are probationary or not, from the IRS is only going to impact the tax season. Rest assured, what I think might come out of it is that the IRS may even have to extend the April 15th date to accept tax returns because of it. Because they're going to be severely behind. They already had a struggling workforce. The poor people that work for the state unemployment offices, they were already short-staffed. Now they're going to be short-staffed, and they have that many more applicants that are going to be looking for benefits because they are newly unemployed. All I know is There's a special place in hell for people who wish bad on others, especially when it comes to federal employees who have been completely blindsided by the foolishness that is going on up there on that hill. I'm sorry, but wishing someone else's demise does not end well for you. My prayers to all the federal workers. I don't care what you do. My prayers to you, because it is hard out here to live. People are trying to figure out how they're going to feed their families every day. Y'all up here complaining about them $18 eggs, but you happy that a federal employee has lost their job? Please go touch grass. And I ain't talking about no turf either. Go touch real grass, please.
All the people that are losing their jobs in the federal government, there are going to be so many more implications than just them losing their jobs. And that's enough. I mean, I live in the Washington, D.C. area, and I know a lot of people that it's affecting, and it's just so sad. And I know other areas of the country that have a lot of federal workers concentrated in those areas are going to have the same thing. But what maybe people aren't thinking about yet is that areas that have a lot of federal workers, their economies in that area are going to be affected. Meaning those people that have lost their jobs, they're not going to be able to pay their mortgages. They're not going to be able to pay their rent. They're not going to be able to pay their credit card bills. You know, if their kids go to private school, they're not going to be able to pay that either. So what's going to happen is the real estate market's going to bottom out. And so, you know, that's going to affect the whole real estate market. People are going to start moving out. People aren't going to be able to buy things on Amazon. People aren't going to be able to shop at Whole Foods. So it could affect some billionaires out there, if you get my gist. People aren't going to be able to go out to restaurants. It's going to affect the economy in that way. And when it comes tax time, because they've gotten rid of all these IRS workers, you're not going to get your refund that fast. And, you know, if they're cutting all these other people from different services, whether it's the Social Security area or Medicaid, whatever, if you get services from those areas, you might not be able to get a hold of people as easily. You might not have been able to get a hold of them as easily anyway, but now it's going to be even more difficult. This is going to have a ripple effect, and it's going to affect many people, whether you're a federal worker or not. It's going to touch you in some way, and this is going to affect the economy, whether you're in an area that has federal workers or whether you're not, because it's going to be a ripple effect. Because, like, for example, people can't, like, everybody that's losing jobs, they're not going to be able to buy cars. And then with the tariffs, it's going to be even harder to buy a car anyway. So the automotive industry is going to get hit harder. And now all these federal workers, they're not going to be able to go on vacation. So the travel industry is going to get hit. This is going to affect every single part of our economy. Simple as that.
A quick reminder, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's continue the video.
So I was going back and forth in the comment section on the video on here about the federal layoffs, all those mass layoffs that have been happening in our nation over the past month, right? And this lady said, oh my God, I'm so glad that they're finally downsizing government positions and whatnot, and I hope that they keep at it. And I said, well, lady, what do you mean to hope that they keep at it? Like, people lost their livelihood, they lost their income. And she's like, well, that's what they voted for. And I'm like, I get it. You know, we are in this FAFO era, but not everybody effed around. So in my opinion, not everybody needs to find out. Like, if I didn't F around, I shouldn't be finding out. And that's kind of the same predicament that a lot of these people who are experiencing these things, like, that's probably their sentiment. Like, listen, we voted the right way. You know, we voted against what's happening. So why are we finding out? But that's beside the point. The point is that she was so elated that people are basically losing their jobs. And then she says this that kind of like stuck out to me. She says, well, they can just go into the private sector. And if you have been following job trends and people getting hired, people not getting hired, whatever, you will know that the private sector, when it comes to finding a job, it has been crap since like last June. Like it's been crap. Like when we all were resigning, what do they call it? The Great Resignation a couple years ago. I got my job during the Great Resignation. I ain't even gonna lie. When a lot of people were resigning in mass amounts, like, these corporations have not forgotten, and they are mad about it. And so the people have been penalized for like the past like year when it comes to this stuff. And so now you add over 220,000 individuals and counting to a job market that's like very unstable. Like, do you not understand that these people who work for the federal government, they're not lazy like how many people are saying that they are? A lot of these people have degrees, professional degrees, not only bachelors, not only associates. They got bachelors, associates, masters, certifications on top of all of those degrees that they have. Like, these people are highly qualified. And God forbid you're in a position where you need a job in 2 months. Like, you're going up against not only the 220,000 plus people that have been laid off, plus the more that's to come. You're going up against the people who can't find a job and who haven't been able to find a job for the past 6 months. Like, I'll use my friend as an example. He is very qualified. He speaks over 4 different languages, studied abroad, lived in another country, worked in another country, worked on Wall Street in New York. And his job, you know, they went their separate ways or whatever. This man who's super duper qualified, one of my very close friends who's super duper qualified, has still been looking for employment. So do you really think you can go up against somebody who speaks 4 different languages, has all these degrees, has experience on Wall Street? Like, do you really think you, with your God knows what, can really go up against that individual and individuals like that? Like I said, God forbid, in 2 months, 3 months, you need a job because they laid you off or they just downsized and said whatever. Like, God forbid you need a job. You're going up against individuals who are overly qualified. And because they're used to making money, they might take any money. Like, if they were used to making like $200,000 and they say, hey, well, I'll take $150. And you're like, well, I need and I require at least $170. Guess who the employer's going to go with? They're going to go with the person who has more qualifications, who's only asking for $150, versus you who has less qualifications asking for $170. Like, you're going to be stuck in that same position. So I say all of this to say, like, people need to have some more compassion, because these layoffs are going to keep coming, and people think that these layoffs won't come to the private sector. Like, what? Like, money is funny all around. Like, what do you think? Like, where do you think we're heading? Like, do you think we're heading up? You can sit up here and honestly see hundreds of thousands of people get laid off, and you're like, oh, well, you know, this is great. We're heading in the right direction. We're heading all the way up. No, we are not heading up. Like, we are not heading, we're not heading up. I don't know where we're heading, but it's not up. So I just need some of y'all to use some common sense and use some compassion. Like, the fact that you are an individual who's happy that other individuals lost their livelihood on Valentine's Day. Like, I've been seeing videos of people talk about, yeah, I went to bed on Valentine's Day, woke up, and my email ding basically said, y'all don't work here no more. Like, come on now. Like have some compassion for somebody outside of you. Because what happens to others that you're happy about can certainly happen to you. I hope that that's not lost on you. Like, yeah, I hope that that's not lost on you, because yeah, like I that comment rubbed me the wrong way. And to all of those who are looking for jobs, all of those who are without, I wish you the best. I pray that you find something like ASAP, because I know what it's like to be without. So I'm wishing you all the best. Oh, and another thing I forgot to add is there's a lot of students who constantly come out of college too who are going to be looking for jobs. That's going to add to a job market that's not stable. They have December and May graduations. So though you might not be personally affected, your kids might be affected, which I hope that you take your kids personal. So yeah, you will be personally affected. But like I said, to all of those who are looking for a job, I'm praying that you find one, and I pray that you find one very fast, very quick, very soon.
One thing that I have seen is the inherent lack of empathy for each other. We are just so out of touch with one another. If a fellow American loses their job, that is nothing to celebrate. These people have families to take care of. They have bills to pay, just like you. They have other people relying on them. They have older parents to take care of. And you rejoice when someone loses their job. The lack of empathy in America is astounding, especially these days. I have seen this trend happening for the past 5 years or so. It's a sad commentary. We can't even understand what each other are experiencing, especially in these tough times. A lot of people rejoicing when other people lose their jobs. It's a sad commentary. What has happened to us Americans? Things have changed so much. And if it is our time to experience hardships, we want support from other people. See how that works?
You know, I'm watching this federal government downsizing or possibly even right sizing. And I was thinking about it because I'm in the private sector. I've never been laid off. I've never been asked to leave or fired. However, I've asked to lay off people and downsize our family business in the past. And I'll tell you, you do lose sleep on it. It's painful. Either way, just not the legal aspect of it. It's just the pain of hurting people and asking them that we can't move on with them or without them or whatever. It's really difficult. But as I observe the downsizing of the federal government, I also work in the private sector. In the private sector, I usually work with professionals in what we call a white-collar recession. Last year at this time, we had probably 110 candidates that we're trying to place, and very few get placed, 5%, 7% at the most. 12 months fast forward to now, we got about 250. So now you start thinking about, now with the federal government downsizing, okay, what's that all mean? What type of talent do they have? And according to AI, 30% are retirement age or close to 30%. So people are going to be in fear. People are probably going to not understand how tough it's going to be to get a job in the private sector. And what about the unemployed right now? Will they have an opportunity to get into the federal government as they right size the federal government, which takes time? So I'm looking at it where I think a non-competes, non-solicitation, cool-off period, benefit programs, pensions. There's a lot going on, man. So I just want to let you know that people need to think about this. I think about it even though I'm employed for myself. I've never been unemployed, but I've seen people unemployed and in pain. And how do they get back on their feet and make it happen? But it's more than just yourself. It's many, many people, much competition, and making sure you pick the right horse. I got to fly here. I'll talk to you soon. This is Rock. Always bring joy. I'll talk to you soon.
I'm in the great cold state of Kansas City, Kansas. And when I tell you it's cold out here, a little more colder than the Northeast. Not much colder, but a little more colder. But I was talking today about, I heard a video today where a young lady was explaining she works for the federal government and they got laid off, and about 200,000 workers were laid off, and she was very upset. Now, first, let me start by saying my heart goes out to anyone who loses their job, because God knows we need our jobs. We need to make money to pay for our expenses, and our living, and our children, and all those things that come with it. But one thing I've learned is, in the private sector, we always face restructuring, reorganization. I worked for the state government for about 4 years in the state of Maryland, and I had to come to a crossroads because I was very ambitious, a lot more than I am now. I was a lot younger and ambitious, and I wanted to grow with the company, but they would not let me promote because they said I had to wait to have people with more tenure in front of me, and they would not let you to jump over those folks. So I had to make a choice. And I chose to go into the private sector early in my government career. And one thing I learned in the private sector, you have to produce. You have to compete. And every year, organizations, for the most part, do some type of restructuring to remain profitable. I was in a company that restructured, and I was reorged out, and I had to reapply for my job. And I got it, but they also gave me additional duties. They gave me 2 jobs, but they were trying to maintain profitability. So I understand that, but I quickly learned you had to compete. Corporations are always restructuring because they have to be profitable, particularly if you're a corporation that reports to Wall Street. You have to make that number. You have to make that money. And you have to, at times, requires you to restructure and reorg to be profitable, because one of the biggest expenses in any corporation is payroll. Now, government workers got to compete now. They got to compete. You got to sharpen your skills. You got to stay competitive. You got to compete. So I've been in the corporate world now almost 20 years, and it's never a dull moment. You can never really rest because you never know what's coming around the corner. So you always have to be prepared to compete and keep your skills sharpened. But one thing that helped me learn early in my career was maintain your living standards below what you bring in. Because when you have to face a restructure or potential layoff or something to that nature, you'll have a nest egg, and you have to plan for your future. So I've always kept my standard of living down. I enjoy what I want, but I've never lived to what I make. So that helped me maintain some of that stress, reduce some of that stress. And most importantly, I trust in the Lord. So again, my heart goes out to those corporate folks or those federal workers who've lost their jobs, because it's never fun to lose your job. Keep them in prayer. God bless.
And to the argument that this happens all the time in the private sector, I know mass layoffs happen all the time in the private sector, but are they logical? Do they produce better business outcomes? Has anyone ever researched this? If you have, or you know resources, please provide them in the comments. I love being educated and informed. Also, another question. Has the COO of your company ever proudly gone on camera and said that they want to traumatize you? Or that they want you to be afraid to wake up in the morning and come into the office? Mine did. Did the president of your company ever tweet the CEO of your company and say, hey, we need to be more accountable and make sure our employees are being productive? Let's figure out how to do that. And the CEO was like, okay, I'm going to send them an email, and if they don't respond by the deadline, they're fired. Because mine did.
Federal employee friends, I've got something for you. Something that says you don't have to reply to these OPM emails. Let me show you. So this here is the cover letter from a privacy impact assessment for the government-wide email system set up by DOJ. You can see by the date, February 5th, 2025. This is after DOJ was set up. All of your stuff you can see there. OPM form 5003, everything you need to make this official. Now, it's there, but we need to go to page 7. Page 7 here, in section 4, under notice 4.2, what opportunities are available for individuals to consent to uses, decline to provide information, or opt out of the project. The employee response data is explicitly voluntary. The individual federal government employees can opt out simply by not responding to the email. So this is saying don't respond. If you don't want to provide data, if you don't want to respond, you legally don't have to. You're not required to. This data right here says you don't have to. And I wouldn't, because OPM has already said we can't force them to give us data.
It just baffles me. It still baffles me that people is really rejoicing somebody's downfall. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it's federal or the private sector. A job loss is a job loss, regardless. These people have mortgages to pay, rent to pay, take care of their children, a livelihood. One thing about it, and two things for certain, you gotta be very careful. Like I said, you gotta be very, 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 very careful what you laugh at. Because at the end of the day, those same people you laughing at, you might need them one day. So you need to be very, 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 very careful.
These federal layoffs, these federal jobs, and these people losing their jobs, this is about to make the job market very competitive. Think about it. We had the great migration with all of the black people leaving the South to go north. I feel like it's about to be another sort of migration, and that's from the DC, Virginia area. And I hate talking politics, but I think this is politics. But or just the economy in general. All of these people losing their jobs, is going, what about their mortgages? What about like the small business owners like daycares losing businesses? Not to mention how the funding for daycares and things like that are all out of whack because of, the Musk guy. But anywho, back to the federal employees. These federal employees, they need to find work. In the DC, Virginia area, all of these people losing their job in the same area, will that area be able to facilitate all of these new people looking for work? The job market is about to be competitive. These federal workers are smart, educated, some of them have really long job history, and they're out here applying for these jobs. It's going to be hard for the regular people that's already looking for jobs. So the market for jobs is about to be tight. Or are all of these people going to go to the same state? Or are they going to the same area? Or all the work from home jobs about to be occupied? There's so many questions and so many things that everyday people are not thinking about. You have to consider all of these factors with these massive federal layoffs.
Let me tell you something. You got to be careful what you say, okay? When I was just graduating college, I didn't know which route to go. And I was a business economics major, but the 9 to 5 just was not for me, but it was the standard, right? So I knew I was good at doing hair. So I was like, I'm going to go to school. So I put myself through Paul Mitchell. I got my license. I ended up doing hair at a salon. It didn't work out. Did it at my house. And then I ended up getting my own space. I continued that on up until 2024. The whole time I would hear people say to other entrepreneurs, why y'all trying to do this? Y'all need to get a job. Like, entrepreneurship was just such a rebellious thing to people who had a 9 to 5, especially people who had those government jobs, the federal jobs. They swore up and down that those places is where you need to be. If you lived in Memphis and you didn't work at FedEx, you worked at the IRS. I would hear people say all the time, get you a federal job, get you a government job. It's so secure. You'll never lose your job. XYZ. What's happening now? Don't ever get too comfortable where you at, baby, because everything can crumble, everything can fall apart, anything can happen. Regardless of where you are, what you choose to be, whether entrepreneur or 9 to 5, you're gonna always learn. You're gonna always need to have some type of skill in life, though.
And these people who are being laid off, they are highly skilled people. They are educated people. You will have to compete with these people in the already horrible job market. Are you prepared for that? Are you ready for that? The job market is already cooked. We all know this. Firms are not hiring. People are losing their jobs left and right. Fake jobs everywhere. And then add 200,000 highly skilled, educated, experienced people into the mix. And you have a complete meltdown in the private sector. Are you guys ready for that? Man, we are so cooked. It will be a very tough year this year. for many Americans. The average American, you better tighten up. And please, please, please learn some new skills. This is the year to do it because you will be outcompeted by other people with more skills and more schooling than you, more experience than you. This is the year to skill up.
I'm honestly kind of glad that I was one of the first people to be laid off by the federal government, because the feeling of just not knowing, like, will I, won't I, what's gonna happen with the budget, what's gonna happen with my department, was stressing me out so much. And I honestly didn't realize how much weight it was on my shoulders until it was lifted. Like, once I got laid off, I was like, okay, now I know what's next. Now I don't have to spend the next, year or 4 years wondering, is it gonna be me? Is it gonna be my department? I just can start on the next chapter. And then also, I feel like the job search market is about to be so saturated. Maybe not for like my field necessarily, I'm like a graphic designer or photographer, but just in general. I feel like it already is, but I do think it's gonna get worse. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. Curious if anyone else feels the same way.
I cannot believe that I'm still waiting to be officially fired from the IRS. I knew that I was going to be fired since like last Friday because Reddit told me. Shout out to Reddit. Monday was a federal holiday. Tuesday I went in there waiting for my letter. Everyone was acting like, I don't know, business as usual. Wednesday, management finally was like, oh yeah, you're getting fired. I know. Thursday, they fired half the people. Today, I'm waiting to get fired. Sit around the office waiting for my email. And then I get told they're going to send me a letter in the mail. In the mail. USPS. That's how I gotta get that's how I gotta find out that I'm getting fired. Officially. I did not think this was gonna drag out this long. I'm ready to be done with it. Just let me go.
I think everything that's happening right now with the mass federal layoffs, especially those affected in the tech sector, it's just a little scary right now. Definitely feel for the people who are affected by the most recent layoffs, especially because the government was always seen as a place of like security and stability. For anyone who was recently affected, I will just say first, take the time that you need. Even with the severance involved, a layoff can just feel like a huge hit. So there's 4 tips I'm gonna give. The first one is reframe your skills for the private sector. 2, if you haven't already, start building and expanding your network. Reach out to people on LinkedIn, let them know your situation, see if they have opportunities to help. 3, you have to upskill. The market is super competitive right now, even in the private sector. With all these layoffs, you have so many people flooding the market, so you gotta do what you gotta do to stand out. And lastly, just see this as an opportunity for higher career growth and a better salary.
I appreciate you guys watching the video today. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.